All right, guys, we're knee-deep into it, and all things and everything is about the NFL draft right now. And I will get into Senior Bowl coverage. I am way behind. I'm even behind on this video. I took some time with the kids over the weekend, did a lot of catching up with my other job. Anyways, here we are. I want to go over two ways the draft could be affected by number 10 overall pick, and it happens every year, and there are two clear ways this draft can go. Or I guess there's a third way where it can go kind of chalk, which you've all seen, and then we end up with, Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell or James Pierce or something right in the middle after. Everything kind of goes chalk to what all your analysts are saying, but there's two other directions this thing could go. And this stems from the basis. Now, this wasn't just 17 hours ago. This is when I screenshotted it. But there's several reports that Jackson Dart, that Jalen Milroe is garnering attention from some of those scouts at the very top of the draft now. This happens every single year. Quarterbacks that shouldn't be drafted in the top 10 find their way up there in years where it's not a quarterback draft. This is a well-known not quarterback draft. Last year, draft heavy for quarterbacks. Next year, draft heavy for quarterbacks. This year, some predict maybe one quarterback in the first round. Nobody's really saying that anymore, but top 10, maybe just one. Some are saying, hey, we could even have 4 or 5. See the top headline there, 2025 NFL mock draft, 5 quarterbacks in the top 10. There are quarterback-needy teams, and as we know, quarterback predominantly dictates how a team goes forward in the future. The Bears' last Super Bowl, our only big weakness was quarterback, and we did not beat the Colts. If you have a quarterback and then build around them, things tend to work out a lot better. So some of these teams, like the Titans, Browns, Giants, Raiders, Jets, Saints, Steelers, Rams. Now, some of those are speculative. Many think that Justin Fields or Russell Wilson will be re-signed by the Steelers at pick 21. Many are speculating possibly that the Rams might need a quarterback after Matthew Stafford might retire. These are speculative. But the top ones, maybe Aaron Rodgers stays. Maybe the Saints don't get rid of Derek Carr. So that's why there's a little asterisk by some of these names. There's things up in the air. Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers. There's some contract things that have to be resolved there. But there are some decent free agents there, Sam Darnold being the headline of those. But the Titans picking at 1, Browns at 2, Giants at 3, Raiders 6, Jets 7, and Saints 9. That leaves a lot of opportunity where some of these teams that might not normally take a quarterback in the top of the draft could say, well, this is the most important position. Jackson Dart all of a sudden looked really good at the Senior Bowl practices. Now at the Combine, he shows up and he shows off. A lot is going to be dictated what happens in free agency. When March 10th rolls around, we're going to see what some of these teams do. And if they hold off on selecting a quarterback or signing a quarterback and bringing a quarterback in, one of those big names, Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, Jameis Winston, if they hold off on that, some of these teams might be fighting for quarterback at the top of the draft. So here's some of your other highest projected non-quarterback draftees, and this is before the Senior Bowl, before the Combine. Everything changes. Right now it's going to start changing, and yes, I am going to get into Senior Bowl coverage. Yeah, I haven't sat down and watched a ton of it yet. I watched some of my favorite players, Ricky White, Jackson Woodard, Tyler Batty. These guys are absolutely going out of their minds at the Senior Bowl. There's some other big names. And then the other big thing, you guys saw the video. I'll link it here in the description about how some non-centers might be playing center. Gray Zabel yesterday absolutely went off. Everybody's talking about him. All of a sudden, he's not a tackle. This is what I was talking to you guys about. This is going to be the year. If you're just looking at your board and saying, oh, there's only 4 centers in this draft. There's Jared Wilson, Jake Majors, Jake Slaughter. Jake Slaughter went back to college. Jonah Monheim. I know I'm missing one. But there's like 4 centers in this draft. That's not the case at all. There's so many guys that can convert in. Gray Zabel just showed that yesterday at the Senior Bowl. So things are going to start shaking up. You're going to start seeing some things in draft boards changing. You're going to see your mock draft simulators change their order. That's how these things go. But here's some of the other. And yes, I put Ashton Genty behind me on purpose because to me, he's not a top 10 pick, and there's no way the Bears will select him. That's for another day. But Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Kelvin Banks, all these guys, these are kind of your other top 10 nominees. So there's a lot of really good options for the Bears here at the top 10 in the draft. So let's just hypothetically say 2 different scenarios here. You've got number 1, quarterbacks go heavy top 10 in the draft, and number 2, Quarterbacks go light top 10 in the draft. This is the effect it could have on the Chicago Bears draft. And it will be a significant difference if these two things happen. Number one, let's say Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Shadur Sanders, and then Jackson Dart all go in the top 10. And this is realistic. This could happen. This happens every year. Look at just a couple years ago with Anthony Richardson and all the hype that was around Will Levis. Will Levis didn't go in the top 10, but leading up to the draft, C.J. Stroud, all these guys, they were saying this is number 1, number 2, Bryce Young, 1, 2, 4, and maybe even, I don't remember the exact draft order, but number 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 7, I don't remember the exact draft order. Anyways, they were projected that they could all go in the top 10. Now, it wasn't realistic. Those who, maybe this didn't, it's Jackson Dart isn't realistic to go in the, but if it did happen, this is a scenario where it could lay out. Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Shadur Sanders, and you got Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, McMillan, and Burden, kind of just filling in some of the best guys with team needs for these guys here. This is what it would leave the Bears left with to be able to draft from. And there's some solid options here. I mean, any one of these guys, Bears fans should be, except for, let's put that over his head. Any one of these Bears fans, and if this happened and we had this many options in the top 10, it would be criminal to take Ashton Jeanty. But if in my scenario here, I would take Will Johnson. To me, he is absolutely generational where he's locked down day one. And you've got, I know it's not our biggest team need, but best player available fits in this scenario where Will Johnson, if we didn't take him, I'd probably, I'd die over it. But I mean, taking Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell, top edge, and then you see Walter Nolan doing really well. I've hyped him up all offseason, seeing him do well at the Senior Bowl at defensive tackle. There's so many good options in this scenario. So that's one thing that could happen. If quarterbacks go heavy, top of the draft, it knocks some of these really good top 10 prospects down to the Bears, and they've got really prime pickings. You will not see them trading out of the top 10 because there's such good options here. The Bears would take their guy. All right, reverse effect now. Let's say quarterbacks go super light in the top 10. You got Travis Hunter going first, Abdul Carter, then Cam Ward to the Giants, to Tatoria McMillan, Will Johnson, Luther Burden, Mason Graham, Mikael Williams, Will Campbell. That leaves less options for the Bears, but what a lot of people don't realize, see all those quarterbacks? There's still some quarterback-needy teams later, and if you got Shadur Sanders sitting there, or Jackson Dart, or Jalen Milroe, and one of these teams down there, let's say, for example, it's the Steelers. Reverse effect. They didn't sign Justin. They didn't sign Russell Wilson. They really wanted to go with a rookie, and this fell into their laps. This is the exact scenario the Bears were in 2021, where they said, Giants, we're trading up to number 10. We need that pick. We want Justin Fields. We're going to trade up for him. And this is something very realistic that it could look like for the Bears if this happened. So here's the 2021 draft. The Bears traded up for number 11. The Giants received our 20th pick overall, our 5th rounder that year, a 1st and a 4th. Well, the Bears, this is very similar value to that trade, a potential draft trade for that one. If they trade up to number 10 to get Shadur Sanders, the Bears would then receive, this is hypothetical, but it's very in line with the same value. Instead of 20 to 11, it's 21 to 10. The Bears would receive the 1st this year, and say we pick Princely Umanmielen. I'm thinking Walter Nolan might be gone by 21. Some of these other top prospects. Maybe you guys want to take Tyler Booker. I'm good with that too. I'm just throwing right here in this range who I would take. So don't get focused on the person. Then we get their 3rd rounder this year, and to me that would be Tez Johnson, who's absolutely doing amazing at the Senior Bowl practices as well. Separation, speed, everything we've hyped up on this channel. And then next year's 1st round pick, having 2 1st rounders again next year's draft. And now maybe we don't have the exact same needs next year, but remember, next year is a quarterback heavy draft. So again, we could be in a scenario where we can trade down with one of our picks for teams needing a quarterback next year. It's all hypothetical. It's fun and games, but these are realistic scenarios that could happen. And if the Bears are presented with an opportunity where they can pick up a 3rd rounder, trade back 11 spots. Yes, it's valuable spots you're trading back, but there's so many good options here. And these many quarterbacks are sitting on the board. We could pick up a future 1st rounder. I'm all in on the Bears trading the future for a 1st rounder. Well, trading the now for a 1st rounder. Sorry, I phrased that wrong. The Steelers are always going to be playoff contenders. They're always going to be right there in the playoffs, so you're probably not going to get a lottery pick. You're probably not going to get a top 10 pick out of their pick next year. But say if the Bears do really well and we have number 21 and number 26 overall next year, That's really valuable in a team that continues to rebuild and can add some solidifying pieces next year to make playoff pushes and runs. So there's two scenarios the Bears could have happen for them. Will one of them happen? I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the draft. That's the fun part of this season right here. We got to get to free agency on March 10th. That's the next step. Then we got to get to the combine and the draft. But I will bring you guys something very soon as I review some from the Senior Bowl. I've seen clips and highlights right now, but I haven't done a dive enough to be able to give you guys a full breakdown, and I want to do that. So I will get to that. I'm getting caught up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I always appreciate everything to go with this channel. It's been a lot of fun for me, and I appreciate every one of you guys. It'll be a lot of fun as we continue forward, so please hit that like button, subscribe, and until next time, the Bears, and bear down.